Ahora, el debate de ahora será en inglés y será un híbrido, ¿no? Un poco acostumbrados a lo que estamos viendo estos días. Conexión desde el plató de Barcelona, pero también en un formato digital. Turno para hablar del BINTELLIGENT, el e-commerce, la inteligencia artificial y el Big Data para el impacto positivo en la experiencia del cliente. Y el moderador es Miguel Gallo, partner de Ernst & Young y también líder en el Business Design y experto en transformación de modelos de negocio. Él moderará un debate sobre la inteligencia artificial que es muy interesante verla desde muchos prismas diferentes. Por ejemplo, en el aspecto del hogar, de la telefonía móvil, en definitiva, para solucionarlos o mejorarnos nuestra vida del día a día. Nos acompañarán participantes, speakers, representando empresas como La Martina Europe, Birchbox, HP o Pepe Jeans, marcas muy potentes en el ámbito, por ejemplo, de la cosmética o también de la ropa ligadas al e-commerce. Miguel, muchas gracias por acompañarnos y ahora nos presentas a tus speakers. Gracias.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, Nuria. I should begin in English, right? Okay. Let me introduce my guest today. We have here with me Alex Balbona. He is the president of Birchbox. We do have also online Enrico Rosello, CEO of La Martina Europe. We do also have here, hello Enrico, we do also have here Moritz Wolf. He leads all the marketing strategy and customer strategy and customer direct strategy and implementation in Hewlett-Packard. Hello Moritz. And we do also have here Javier Figal, and he is the direct-to-consumer senior director of Pepe Jeans. Pepe Jeans Group, it's a worldwide group specialized in retail business. So, just a few words to just give the first 2 minutes of what we are going to talk about. Intelligence, artificial intelligence related with data and big data, and especially in the retail business, e-commerce and etc. Okay, let's see what they say. They say that this is going to give us a much better life. Artificial intelligence, artificial algorithms, e-commerce, data, big data. This is supposed to be created in order to give us a great customer, great personal experience. And it's been a booming the last years in all sectors. Really, the sector that we are going to have mainly speakers today, it's one of the most impacted sectors with artificial intelligence and data, big data. But my guess that is our speakers, they are not going to agree on all of that, let's say, future vision or actual statement that artificial intelligence is great for all of us in all senses. So if you remind that movie, which is a movie of already 15 to 20 years ago created, it was a movie called Minority Report. You remind that a scene that Tom Cruise, he got into a retail shop of Gap. He was just looking some screens, and the screens were talking directly to his face, and they were telling him especially a type of conversation related with the last purchase and the future purchase. So he ended up in the shop just having the idea of buying those trousers, those garments in order to have the best purchase, personalized purchase. That technology, it was created 20 years ago. What has happened? Why is this today so many different arguments which are favor to artificial intelligence and so many other arguments which are just the opposite? Let me get into the real debate with these guest speakers. Let me just be as polemic as they want me to be. And let me begin with Enrico. Hello, Enrico, and thanks for being with us. Let me ask you, Miguel. Hello. Let me ask you directly, what are the main 3 topics about artificial intelligence, data, big data in the fashion business? Are we ready for it?
Okay, this is a very good question. It's a challenging matter. Let me start saying that, unfortunately, I believe that artificial intelligence is able to do better, faster, and cheaper what humans are doing today from the technological viewpoint. But the major challenge, in my opinion, is the culture of the people and the companies. So just to answer your question, we are not ready. And there are different challenges we have to win. And it's about personal mentality and also company culture and also the way we approach problems. So if you want me to go more into details, I was trying to lay down in my experience and my understanding of this technology, which is not that easy for a person like me. I'm coming from the traditional and analogical business. It's impressive how the application can move from just that data analysis to the prediction as well, as you recalled just mentioning Minority Report as a movie. But now going into the reality, the major problem is about how we approach this technology. So starting from the basics, we should consider that according to certain searches, artificial intelligence will add probably 13 trillion business in the next decade. And this is throughout different businesses, which is impressive. I don't think there is a company who wants to stay out of that business. So if we go into the major challenges, which is what you are calling me for, I think that we have to change, first of all, our approach, because many times our companies are based on silos. And instead we have to work in a more interdisciplinary collaboration way, because otherwise artificial intelligence will never really deploy or all the benefit it can. The second thing, which is also more challenging, and this is targeting more I think, our cultural mentality, is about the fact that we should shift from experience-based and leader-driven business. We should move from a sort of decision-making based on data, which is moving also the place of taking decision more on the front line and less on the higher management. So that is very difficult for us as a person and as a company. And if we don't do that, also that means the leaders themselves, they don't believe in the artificial intelligence. So this is also very difficult. The third point that I was highlighting in order to try and be very synthetic is about the way we act as a company or as a professional. And this is something which is not new to us, but is becoming more and more true, which is about moving from a rigid, risk-adverse modality to a more agile, experimental, and adaptable. This has much to do with the culture as well, because also as leaders, we should, for example, focus more into making the test and learn mentality a normal way of working. And we should reduce also the fear of failing. We should be ready not to have everything started into details and ready to be deployed, but just to start and make it better. So I was reading a nice sentence some time ago, and it was saying that today, with this technology, done is better than perfect. And that is so true, actually, because I have been also struggling a lot in order to try and have everything perfect on the table. And when that is ready, it's too late for the market, for the technology status, and also for the company itself. So I was trying to emphasize then the areas of attention in order to set up ideally for success with the AI deployment in the company. Starting from the point that a fashion business is very much based on personal taste, creativity, and also personal feeling and appreciation assessment of the situation. So I consider our business to be very much reluctant into adopting AI in a serious manner, because another point to be mentioned is that actually AI will deploy the best of the benefit and of the advantages when it's applied cross-channel throughout the company, not just in a specific task. While all our companies and ourselves, me in first place, we usually try and solve one single problem applying an algorithm or artificial intelligence. While once you deploy that, actually also other areas in the company can benefit of it. So just going back to the four areas I was highlighting, for me to try and be more AI ready as a company, one was about explaining why. So since involving the people is so much important, and I was talking about the company culture, which is also the culture of the single person, there are two major points I would raise. One is about the urgency of change. So AI in some way should be presented to the workforce as an existential imperative. We cannot do without. It's sooner or later, but later is worse than sooner. So once we set that as a sort of principle, then we have to, let's say, solve the problem that every one of us, every single person has, unconsciously or not, the fear of becoming obsolete. The artificial intelligence may create our job like useless. But so the second point concerning the people, let's say, involvement is about making them to see how they will fit in the new frame, how this solution is going to also be an advantage for them, possibly taking out certain tasks, but also requiring the capability of using the final results. Obviously, as I said, also changing the mentality to be ready to base the decision not just on the gut feeling, but also on the real data analysis results. The second point that I was highlighting is about anticipating the internal barriers to change, which might lie into the people attitude, as I recalled already, but also the company culture. So to find an alignment between the company core values and the application of artificial intelligence, to make people see how these two things, which resound a little bit different and not really compatible with each other, instead they can work together, they can synergize in order to reach better and sooner the company values. And so that's another point. The third one, which I found interesting just by reading, this is not my experience, but it could be a good rule of thumb, I think, for everyone. I was reading in different articles what is very interesting. When you start thinking and applying artificial intelligence, you should consider that probably 50% of an investment could be on technology, but the other 50% or even more should be to get ready the structure to adapt, to integrate artificial intelligence, which is, for example, to invest into redesign workflows or communication or training of the personnel, which is not really trivial as a comment, because we always focus on the technological solution and how to implement within the software systems. But then we don't get ready the machine, which is the company and the persons involved. Then the third one is about, being able into balancing feasibility, time investments, and results. So I talk again in first person from my experience. There is a strong attempt or temptation to implement solutions, technological solutions, presenting quick wins. That is a little bit a mistake, because usually this can work if it has been conceived within a long-term vision, which nowadays we should consider 3 years, not more. Okay. But at the same time also, and this is the last point of my, let's say, recap, balancing means also to try and get some quick wins within a long-term vision, because also people, but the company itself, need to have some results in a short-term vision as well. Okay. So short-term shouldn't lead, but then should be included into long-term vision.
Thank you, Enrico. Thank you. It was a great explanation about your vision of artificial intelligence mainly. Okay, let me get the opinion from Alex Valbona. Alex is here with me at the stage. He's president of Bridgebox. Alex, from your point of view, why do you focus in your company mainly in contextualization? Is this related with data, big data? What is the meaning of contextualization?
Yeah, that's a great question. The main reason is that there's so much data out there that we cannot just process everything. Just as an example, we as the world population have created more data in the last year than in the 100 previous together. And there are really little companies that can process that data level. So when we talk about big data, we think of companies like Google, Amazon, Shopify, Spotify, Netflix, that have that inherent in their value proposition. They were born with that. So I personally don't believe in big data. I believe in smart data, which is a way in which you would use data by really understanding what your business is and the needs of your business are. So you really capture the data that is really needed for yourself in order to provide that customer experience. And really understanding what are the drivers that are making your customers come back at a certain cadence. It's what you need to do in order to provide that experience. In our case, we're serving monthly subscription box to all our customers. So our main point of contact is monthly. We obviously deliver pieces of content on a regular cadence, which would be weekly or even monthly or bi-weekly. And we want them to purchase full size. But that's not a real-time data that we need to provide in order to shape any of these experiences. It's important to know what your customers are looking for, what they're happy with. But mainly, one of the things that we are focusing on is trying to answer from a data perspective 3 main questions, which is what is happening, which is the first layer of data. Why is it happening? Which would be the second one, and the other one is how can I change what is happening on my benefit? So these are the 3 questions that we try to answer. So we need to make sure that we have everything in place to make that happen. So what it's about, which are the touch points that we want to collect data at? Do we have the architecture, technology to do so? Why? It's about capabilities and competencies of your team or technology, which is something that will help you process that. And the other one is how can we change that? So there's some certain technologies that can help you here, but mostly it's about making decisions. And that's something that you can build and make decisions faster and better if you have accurate data on the previous 2, which are what and why. And that falls also into what Enrico was saying about culture. There's a culture shift there also. One of the things that I'm seeing is that biggest change is that traditional old companies, the way we were managing data was about, okay, operational roles were about pulling data. Then middle management was about understanding this data. Why is that happening? And C-level executives were deciding on how to change things. But now everything is infused at every level. So culturally, everyone has to be trained in order to make their own decisions with understanding that we should not be spending our time pulling data or trying to understand it because that's technology, so we need to make decisions. So somehow, completely agreed on what Enrico was saying about how to best use data in order to make better decisions, but it's just not something that the C-level executives need to be doing. It's at every level of the organizations. That's how we understand it.
Thank you so much, Alex. I will come back to you later on because there is something I want to clarify to all our audience. You have said something like, I don't believe in big data. Yeah. This is a big word, so we will come back to this debate in a minute. Let me get now Moritz with us. And Moritz, you are talking, and you belong to a company which is called Hewlett-Packard. Everybody knows Hewlett-Packard, worldwide company, enormous company. I am very interested in knowing about what is your opinion, your personal opinion, Moritz, and what is the point of view from Hewlett-Packard as well. How we land all this? How are we going to use really? And what is the way exactly for us as a company or even as a user, the reality of artificial intelligence in our lives? And then what is the reality of this artificial intelligence in the e-commerce retail business? What is the truth about it?
Thanks, Miguel, and thanks everyone for inviting me. I'm pleased to share here a bit of a personal opinion as well. HP indeed is a huge company, and I'm sure you will find a different point of views where you stand on the organization, right? So I'll share here my personal opinion and how this story is. What I would like to share with you is to put a bit into perspective of where we are in this journey of IA and big data, and to share perhaps three things to consider, which in this journey to be, I don't know what we can call success in this thing because it's a journey, but how can we, three things for everyone to consider when going up the ladder, using data or to the extent of doing IA. So us, especially these days, us as a consumer, our life as we stand as our consumer, we all experiencing the outcomes of IA already. So in some point, the reach of the outcomes of IA is already in touch with us in different extents. But let me share a couple points because where these applications are affecting our lives as consumers today. So from forecasting and sourcing and supply chain, this is affecting completely our world in terms of the product availability and range that we have at our disposal. These all have an impact on price, but furthermore, IA has been extensively already used on the pricing, affecting the pricing that you see that you buy your products, mainly for portfolio optimization, fraud detection, fraud prevention, even pricing optimization and personalization in some extent. So at the end, this is all coming to a different experience, delivering a different thing on our lives, but most importantly, on our experience of purchasing, because we already have what we are served, how are we served, when are we served. There are aspects on our lives that are outcomes of this, as well for the service part. For example, time to solution, time to resolution, or accuracy of processes. So I think it's important for us to consider that despite is something that is not completely adapted, right? We as consumers never before have a situation where we have such a large number of people being affected by something that just few companies are effectively deploying it. And if you take into consideration the benefits to the business and from the benefits to consumers, as the example shared, and the proliferation of actually is a pandemic proliferation of technology supporting big data IA, the proliferation of use cases of how we're able to apply those things, there is no other future than the exponential adoption of IA and big data. For the reasons of the proliferation of data, for multiple of the reasons here already discussed. So if we put into perspective that the universe, think of the universe of brands that you as a customer interact today, and the multitude of businesses that are involved in there in a direct and an indirect manner. And considering that all that change is only delivered by a few, as soon as this adoption penetrates and we increase the use of smart data and artificial intelligence into a wider range of the interactions we have, that gives into perspective of the tremendous effect that this will have to us as consumers. So in this journey, there are three things that I think is important to consider very carefully, because everyone is a different journey. We need to acknowledge is a challenging ladder. If it was easy, we were not going to be here discussing today, and we were not having different opinions about it. So we're talking about cultural changes. Every company comes from different legacy systems. We're talking about huge infrastructure on data collection, expertise on teams on how we structure, operationalize, and disseminate data across the company. We're talking about syndication. We're talking about planning, organization, operating models, success measure models. So this is not trivial change. This is fundamental change. So the first thing that we would like anyone to consider is that, it's a journey. Don't let the hype take you off track. Don't let the hype make you think that you're behind the chain, that you have to jump into a quick solution or you have to jump to somewhere. So it's important that every single company establish a path based on your own journey, based on how you develop business, knowing your business. This is what each of the companies does best. And we need to ensure that we take this on board. The second one is, how do we do that best? And here is, I think, the catch, because there is no tool that is the tool is as good as it is specified to deliver. So what we always recommend is have a razor sharp customer strategy based on value, based on business contribution. Back to some of the commentaries, is having clear understanding what is the contribution, where is always able to retrieve to a contribution. And why this is important? Because at the end of the game, this is the only thing that will be able to ease the transition, to ease the overcome of the silos, to ease the overcome of the change, to facilitate the discussions that needs to happen, and for the teams to assimilate what are the right technologies in all this universe to be applied and infused, because there is a clear objective with a clear outcome at the end. And the last one, which seems obvious, but we sometimes lose track of that, is scalability mindset. And the scalability mindset, though we all understand and we all always say, oh, it's scalable, scalable, the fact is the mindset of the scalability reverts to discipline and process. And when we're going in the journey of implementing, of specifying objectives, the mindset and the challenges that you face in each of those parts is incredibly important for you to take the time and already put in place what is required for a scalable action. So so that is in essence how we would sum up, and I would be keen to highlight that every company is different. There is no silver bullet, or there is no rocket sign or a blue book to follow. So it's important that we take those things with consideration within our organizations.
Thank you, Moritz. Very interesting. Also, I'll keep some minutes at the end for questions. And let's go with the final guest we have with us today, Javier Figal from BINTELLIGENT group. Javier, I was talking with you some days ago, and you said to me that this is clearly the future. But your point of view, you told me it's very far away from us today, or is still far away from us today. So what is your, let's say, your company face today in this journey? How far did you go? And what is BINTELLIGENT's, let's say, track in this journey, and how you have done it?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Miguel. Pleasure to be here with all of you. I will quickly address your first question and then move on to what BINTELLIGENT has done. But let me start by saying that I do think there's still a lot of fiction in the things that we read about the kind of accomplishments that artificial intelligence has been able to deliver in the business world and in retail in particular. And I will give you a very clear example. I bought this set of headphones 2 weeks ago, Last week, I got a recommendation from Amazon's engine saying or telling me that I should buy another set of headphones. Now, we're talking about Amazon here. And if their algorithms are so intelligent, why would they recommend me to buy a second pair of headsets? So I do think that there's many things that we want to accomplish, and your example about the film Minority Report was very clear, but I don't think we're quite there yet as much as we would like to be. So that would be my first point. My second point is about the treating artificial intelligence and big data with the respect and care that it deserves. I think it's important that artificial intelligence and big data has the right regulatory framework to make sure that it becomes a force to make the world a better place and not the opposite. I'm sure many of you have seen a documentary called The Social Dilemma, and if you haven't done so, I recommend that you do. And I'm sure after watching it, you've asked yourselves whether we're creating a better world for our children or not. I believe that for many years, the legislators have been running miles behind the development and progress in these technologies, and I think it's fundamental that they catch up. Third, I want to say that it's a fact that artificial intelligence and big data are a revolutionary force in the business and in our industries. But I think that it's important that organizations learn to walk before they want to run. So my suggestion and the approach I recommend is understanding or taking step by step, constant, non-stop, constant steps in evolving and progressing in the capabilities towards becoming sound in this field. But as I said, not try to run before you can walk. Understanding the degree of maturity that your organization has, and then adjusting your ambitions to that level of maturity that you might have. Talking about the fashion world specifically, and I agree with most of the things actually that Enrico mentioned, in my experience, we faced two main challenges. The first one is the change in mentality that needs to be operated inside the organization to really embrace the change that this requires. And I think for this purpose, it's very important to bring into the organization the right profiles and the right people that can really lead this transformation. And the second challenge that we've traditionally faced is understanding who is the right partner and the right systems that you need to select in order to be able to meet your objectives and fulfill your targets. There is many platforms, many systems that promise that they can do miracles for your business, but understanding who's for real and who's not, I think is a key to make it a success. And talking specifically about Pepe Jeans, we focused our efforts on 5 areas. The first one is cross-selling. Cross-selling is a very strong and powerful system or tool in fashion. The only problem is that we face a challenge in that fashion recycles every 6 months. So many times we don't give the algorithms enough time to learn before we change the whole collection again. So this is the main, let's say, obstacle that we're trying to overcome within our strategy. Second, it's about personalization and A/B testing. Very important in your e-commerce customer journey. Here, I would like to use this as an example of something I was mentioning before, which is the degree of maturity that an organization has. In this particular area, when selecting the partner to work with, we went with a simpler tool as opposed to a more sophisticated one. We chose one called Monetate as opposed to one that I really like and was super powerful, that's called Dynamic Yield. But because we understood that we didn't have the money, we didn't have the resources and the knowledge to really go with the more powerful one, which doesn't mean we won't switch in the future, which effectively or at some point we might do. The third field that we're working on is customer recognition at the point of sale. In e-com, we have the luxury of having a lot of data about the customer when they start their customer journey, but in the physical store, that doesn't exist. If we're capable of giving the sales associates all of the information that we have on the customers when they walk into the store, they will be able to adjust and be a lot more effective in their selling protocols. So we're starting some trials with near-field communication and facial recognition at the point of sale. Fourth one would be chatbot. I think this is a very quick win. Machines channeling the queries and the incidents of your customers and giving a basic first line support to them. It's already a reality, but you must be very careful to do it right, because if it's not done right, it can be a very damaging experience. And then the fifth point where we're working on is on artificial intelligence stock management solutions. We work with a platform called Nextdale. It has helped us reduce considerably the time dedicated to stock management. It has allowed us to have the stock where we need it and when we need it, and as a consequence, increase our turnover. And it's also allowed us to reduce costs as a result of stock leftovers at the end of the season. These are the 5 areas where we're working. We're making progress at different stages. But as I said, the important thing is to understand the degree of maturity that you have and taking things bit by bit.
Well, thank you very much, Javier. And thank you all, because you were right and sharp on your time. So we do have time for questions. Not much. We do only have 10 minutes for questions for all of you. Let me just say one thing before I give you again the microphone. It's as I have seen your talks and what you have said, from my personal point of view, there are kind of 2 worlds. There is the back office and the front office. In the back office, all related with operations, with, let's say, models for supply chain, for organization, internal organization, etc. All those things which are hired to us as consumers, as customers, we agree that you need to be more efficient, that you want to be more efficient, and you want to be faster, quicker, and better. We understand that. Instead, in the front office, what we say, the personal relation, the magic of selling, the magic of talking, I see from your point of view that you are still a little far away of what is supposed to be the excellence of service due to the artificial intelligence. So it's kind of the world in different stages. Let's solve what we have done in the back office, and let's move forward step by step in the front office. I recognize that the chatbots technology is ameliorating day by day. Virtual recognition, virtual assistance, all this is ameliorating day by day. But I still feel in my personal, I still feel the magic of going to a shop or talking to a client or selling itself, which is something that I guess, I'm not a guru, that I guess we are not going to lose it. So instead of just asking and making a debate, because we do have only 1.5 minutes per person, I would do prefer, you are 4 great speakers, I would do prefer to give you the microphone to each one of you and make your last statements. I'm sure you have your comments of what you have said, even what you have listened from the rest of the speakers. So if you please, Enrico, give us your last 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you very much again. Well, actually, what I noticed, we are very much aligned, but sometimes I think we lose the vision. So I take the start from a comment from Javier, whose speech I completely agree on, but I just take a word, and possibly not his intention, but this is giving me like a base for a comment. He was saying about selecting the right tools and the right professionals, bringing in the company the right professionals. But since I agree also with the other comment that artificial intelligence and big data, as said by Moritz, is something that we have to lead. as government, but also as a companies, an association or organization, we cannot just leave the technology to evolve without any rule or any objective. So in the same way, everyone, every single person, every single company can also do something in that respect, which is, for example, we should focus, unfortunately, more and more into training people instead of hiring just the right people. Because otherwise we will create a lot of unemployment and people who has not a place into this, working space. I'm sure Javier didn't mean to say that, but I was finding that like a good point to start from. The last point, very short, is that big data and artificial intelligence together with machine learning is completely changing also the problem about privacy. Privacy is not just about collecting information. It's the way you are capable of analyzing them. You can collect so much information more from having a lot of information. So it very much depends on the engine or algorithm you use, and that is not, as much as I know, is not disciplined yet. So it's just about, if you have a curriculum vitae, you should cancel after 6 months. Well, it depends also on the engine and the solutions you have at your hands to protect the privacy. It's not just the data itself.
Thank you, Enrico. Alex, what is your final point of view?
Yeah, changing a bit and shifting a bit of topic. I just wanted to mention that we as Birchbox are on the vertical of cosmetics. We sell cosmetics online, and we truly believe that we are in the business of contextualization, as you previously asked. So yeah, it's a way of personalization, but we truly believe that contextualization, we as customers are the thing that we're looking after. So we really want to understand why this product is for us, not to really think that this product has been created for us. So we as Birchbox are trying to collect data that support that and try to contextualize why products are being sent to someone and why we believe these are the best products for them. So somehow we're using data as we believe that we are in the business of scaled personal storytelling, which is contextualization. And that's what we really believe. Not to mention that we obviously believe that culture is important, mindset, it has to be infused in all areas of the organization, and legally we need to create some framework to have technology as a benefit, not as an opposed force, but definitely we are in the business of contextualization, not as much on the personalization side of that business.
Thank you, Alex. Now I am going to ask Moritz his 2 minutes.
Thank you. What I hear, I think is a great type of debate, because when we hear, for example from Javier on the choice of the two, right? So having the understanding what is the right choice it means having understanding of where you are in the journey. The other points related to the smart data point by Alex and on the focus on the value, it also keeps you tied up to the result, to the outcome. And I think overall, in this environment is a journey, because there are different stages. And the place where we need to ensure that we recognize is how we are more clever and more efficient on using the data to drive better business outcomes. And these won't come with the Minority Report from day to the other. It will come as a very persistent journey, a very with a lot of change, with a lot of difficult decisions and adaptation. And it's important that the outcome of the initiatives, the outcome of what to achieve, is always in the forefront of taking us to the next step in the ladder on how we turn data into business opportunity and business growth.
Thank you, Moritz. And then let me ask Javier. You have said before some things that I was quite impressed. In fact, I do recommend also to all of the audience to watch this documentary, The Social Dilemma. It's frightening. It's kind of frightening, in fact. And it's also a kind of advice. Javier, you said that you are already working on cross-selling. Imagine that Amazon did the same and he's going to give you again another headphones. I hope not. I hope not. Give me your final 2 minutes, please, Javier.
Thank you, Miguel. I liked something that Enrico said. I think it's true that today done is better than perfect. I think that summarizes a lot of the things that we all must do and how we need to approach the world that we currently live in relation to artificial intelligence and big data. Then I would highlight 2 other comments. One is, let's not try to run before we can walk. Let's take things bit by bit. It's a long run, and we're not there yet. We haven't reached actually, you never reach the end. I think companies need to understand where they are and just walk constantly, non-stop, without having or wanting to rush, understanding what they really want to get out of these impressive technologies that we live in. And then finally, and this comment came to me after watching The Social Dilemma precisely that you just mentioned, it's I urge legislators to really get their hands on applying and inserting the right regulations so that this can be a force for good and not the opposite.
Sounds like a final word. It sounds great and it sounds reasonable as well. So thank you all. I think we are at the end of our time. We were very sharp on time, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And I think we have covered a little bit about everything. I'm unsure that there is any other questions I will address to you, and you will be answering to us with pleasure, I guess, right? Okay, I give now the word to Nuria.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Miguel. Yo creo que de este debate se desprende una conclusión clara, que ha habido mucha sinceridad, porque desde luego que la inteligencia artificial no está lo suficientemente preparada, ¿no? Y sobre todo por aspectos como que los líderes deben creer más, se deben mejorar los algoritmos, también concretar los marcos legales, no querer correr. En definitiva, la inteligencia artificial aún le queda un largo camino, y sobre todo me ha gustado mucho el concepto que ha introducido Alex, ¿no? Con este Smart Data, que lo has diferenciado del Big Data, ¿no? Saber qué queremos, no hace falta toda la información, sino concretar para que el negocio sea un éxito. Y bueno, ya que habéis estado muy cinéfilos, ¿no? Vamos a hacer el inventario, Minority Report, después el dilema social, y no sé, Miguel, si añadirías el Gran Hermano de Orson Welles. No sé cómo ves tú la inteligencia artificial. ¿El marco legal nos puede traer a esto o no?
Bueno, yo creo, os contesto en español, yo creo que el marco legal también se está descubriendo a sí mismo. Me parece que es un camino que ha explotado. Es verdad que las personas estamos viendo en los chatbots, en las asistentes virtuales, los primeros impactos de lo que es la inteligencia artificial. En el front office, en el back office hay muchísimo más desarrollado, pero es una pregunta que tendría para todos, no nos da tiempo hoy. ¿Qué es lo siguiente que vamos a ver como el gran uso de la inteligencia artificial en las relaciones entre las personas? Yo no lo sé. Imagino que también el marco legal lo estará descubriendo, pero ¿qué será? Los hologramas que nos van a vender van a ser una mezcla de todos los canales al mismo tiempo. En definitiva, no es sencillo. La inteligencia artificial ha creado un debate enorme. Hoy yo he tenido la suerte de compartir mesa con 4 personas que son creyentes por una parte y muy poco creyentes por la otra, con lo cual ha sido para mí un debate muy interesante. Gracias, Nuria, y gracias, Barcelona New, y gracias a todos vosotros.
Muy bien, pues gracias. Nos gusta el concepto, pero lo tenemos que trabajar. Enrico, Moritz, Javier, Alex y Miguel, partner de Ernst & Young, muchísimas gracias. Nosotros hacemos una breve pausa, seguimos emitiendo en streaming desde la Estació de França con nuestro New Partner Adif, y volveremos para hablar de la transformación digital en los retailers. Hasta ahora.